X-Pac 12360, featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Guys, welcome back to X-Pac 12360. Our guest right now has had a career over 56 years that has spanned over 7 decades with over 15,000 matches. He's won titles all over the world. Exotic Adrian Street.
Yeah. Hey, Adrian.
Hey, how are you doing? It's nice to be on.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you gave us some of your time today. Because I don't know if you remember, we were in Dallas together briefly for Global Wrestling Federation. You and I. Do you remember that in '91?
Yeah, I remember that. Joe Pedicino's
Yes.
show, I believe.
Yeah, and we weren't around each other much, just briefly. I think actually only for one weekend, but it was definitely a pleasure being around you because I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of British wrestling, Adrian, and my training. I wasn't trained by Carl Gotch, but I was trained by his son-in-law Masami. So there's a little bit of you went to the snake pit, didn't you, Adrian?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
But the Snake Pit is in a grimy little sort of Lancashire coal mining town. And the only thing it's got going for it really is the Snake Pit. There's a wrestler called Billy Riley, and he created the most lethal form of wrestling or martial arts that you could ever wish to witness. And there was a lot of those guys that actually came into professional wrestling from that little town. And the thing is, when I first started wrestling for the big time promoters, I was wrestling 40 times a month. And you could bet your life that at least half of those would be from Wigan. And I'll tell you something, if you couldn't take it, they wouldn't give it to you. You had to fight for everything you could possibly get. So you had to learn to be as good as them at least. Otherwise, you'd get swallowed by them.
Nice.
I mean, for a career that you've had so many, like the 15,000 matches, all the books, all the titles, everywhere you've wrestled, how have you never had an action figure? I know that's really random, but that's all I've been thinking. Because I usually, when we do these shows, I bring the action figure of our guest and I put it on the desk. But I don't have an action figure of you, so I brought your Rockin' Wrestling DVD that I used to have on VHS, that I now have on DVD, that has I'm in Love with Me on it, which was the first introduction I had to you and your character. So I don't understand how you've never had an action figure over like all these years.
I'm so happy that I've never had an action I mean, I've seen a number of action figures of me that people have created like from a generic model, but I'm so glad that I haven't had any done as yet, because I was always in the business for 57 years and all the rest of it. The fact that my movie is coming up,
Yes.
after the movie will be a time when lots of souvenirs and my books and all those kind of things are really going to get popular.
Nice.
So the fact that there hasn't been an action figure of me yet, I've still got all that to look forward to, even though I'm 76 years of age now.
That's incredible that you're 76. Adrian, you were groundbreaking. You did so many things first. Like, okay, for instance, the wrestling album you did. I mean, some of those songs I still know the words to by heart, like Sweet Transvestite with the broken nose, all of those. I mean, it's amazing. At what age did you know that you had this kind of a gift? I mean, you're a great wrestler, Adrian, without a doubt, but all the other talents that you have are to me, they're right up there with the wrestling.
Well, I'm an artist. I like to paint and whatever. I'm a sculptor. I'm pretty good at writing the lyrics and things for
Amazing,
songs.
amazing.
The tunes and everything like that, I was helped with by Don Woods from Britain. We've done those things together. He's helped rephrase some of the lyrics that I've done to sort of make them fit into the things like a lot better. But I did them originally because I wanted my own fanfare. Everybody used to go in the ring in Britain to the March of the Gladiators, and I just wanted to. I've always wanted to be different. The thing is, obviously, wrestling with people from Wigan, from the Snake Pit, so often. Plus, there was wrestling was really booming at that particular time, and there were wrestlers coming from all over the world. We had sambo wrestlers from Russia, Greco-Roman wrestlers from Hungary, and Belgium, and mud wrestlers and things like that from Turkey, and I mean, it had like a myriad of talents from all over the world, and they all came to Britain. It was, like I say, it was absolutely booming. The promoters there were running 4,500 shows a year, and they needed people from everywhere. Well, naturally, if they invested in various wrestlers from all over the world and whatever, it was kind of expensive to bring them in. They wanted to make them into stars, and they would be wrestling against us. And the thing is, to put themselves over, they needed to look like winners to sort of justify the expense that it had taken to actually bring them there. So, I mean, we had a real fight on our hands every time because those guys wanted to show the promoters who'd invested so much money in them that they invested wisely. But the thing is, not in my backyard, mate. You know what I mean?
Right on.
They're gonna. I mean, for them to really shine, they're going to have to beat me. But like I say, not in my backyard. You've got a fight on your hands, and I had a fight on my hands every damn night. So even though I didn't really appreciate it at the time, in retrospect, I really appreciate the fact I was wrestling with people like the Wiganers. You mentioned earlier Carl Gotch.
Yes, sir.
Well, originally, I mean, his name was Carol Istas, and I remember him coming over to Britain. Now, Carol Istas was 15 times champion, Carl Gotch, 15 times Greco-Roman champion, 15 times Kachkan champion of Belgium. He represented Belgium in the, I think it was in 1952 Olympic Games, something like that. But anyway, not only that, he was what they call a dockland champion, and that's where they'd go down on the docks and anything went. Thumb in the eye, kick in the groin, snatching the hair, anything you could possibly do without using a weapon, they would do to each other. And he was a dockland champion, so you can imagine how formidable a guy he was.
Oh, yeah.
But he came over to Britain, and the first thing he wanted to know was, where is the Snake Pit? Where's Billy Riley's gym? Because he was going to go there and show them what wrestling was all about. He went to the gym, and there wasn't anybody, they didn't have a member that couldn't beat him.
Wow.
Everybody that was there, especially when they, the rumor that he was going to go there and show him what wrestling was all about, preceded him, and they kicked the living crap out of him. And he admitted himself, he said that he threw everything he thought he knew about wrestling out the window. And he trained under Billy Riley, personally under Billy Riley, for 8 years. After he did that, he left and went to Canada and into the States. And from there, and like when he went over there, he changed his name from Carlistas to Carl Gotch, and the rest is history. You know what a formidable guy he was.
Oh yeah, Vern Gagne called him Carl Krauser for some reason for a while, but that's neither here nor there. We're mainly interested in you, Adrian, because you're just an amazing person.
I plead guilty to that.
You are guilty to that, man. Adrian, how long have you been making your own gear?
Since I was 3.
What?
Since I was 3 years of age.
What kind of gear are you making at 3?
I've been making exotic costumes from the time I was 3. When I was 3 years old, the war was on in Britain, and we all had our little ration books and all the rest of it.
Right.
And the fact that I had my own little ration book, I felt kind of important and everything like that. And I've never really had a sweet tooth, but I'd go to the candy store and everything like that with a few copper coins and my little ration book. And I used to buy some candy called Raspberry Ruffles. And the reason I bought those is that they had the best metal foil. These have it in all different colors and patterns and things like that. And that's the reason I got them. I'd take all the metal foil off of the chocolates really carefully, because that is what I really wanted. And I'd trade the actual chocolates with the other kids if they give me the foil off of their candy. And I used to make little mannequins out of plasticine, out of clay. And I got that. I'd get a razor blade and I'd cut the foil this way and that way. And through trial and error, I got like a pattern where I could actually dress my little mannequins up in this metallic foil and turn my little mannequins into knights in shining armor.
Wow.
So that is how long I've been making costumes.
You're so creative and ahead of your time, man. You're like a true Renaissance man with everything you do. It's amazing. But
I amaze myself sometimes.
what was it like growing up during the war?
Well, my father was a prisoner of war with the Japanese at the time. And in actual fact, this is the first book I wrote.
My Pink Gas Mask.
And that is me, just a couple of years ago, wearing the same mask that I was issued when I was a 3-year-old child in Britain. I was given that so that when Hitler's mob dropped the gas bombs on us, I'd be able to breathe. And this book's got all about that in the thing. You can see there. That's me with my teddy boy gang. That's me there.
Wow.
With my little teddy boy gang, and we were into rock and roll music at that time. And that book spans the time from just before I was born till I actually left Wales for London to become a professional wrestler. But my dad, for whatever reason, he was a prisoner of war with the Japanese. When he came home, for whatever reason, he didn't like me very much, and I grew to dislike him very much. I had a very bad relationship with my father. Why, I don't know. He just didn't like me, and I got to dislike him. But he had me out of school working in a coal mine when I was 15. Well, the thing is, it's dark down there. I need a spotlight, you know. So anyway, like I say, I sort of suffered it for just over a year. Then I ran away from home to London. I I went straight to the promoter's office and told them I wanted to be a professional wrestler. That was the big time promoters. They told me to go away, come back when I was bigger, older, and an experienced amateur wrestler.
Right.
But anyway, in the meantime, I started boxing on a fairground booth. I used to box anywhere from 4 to 7 times in one day and get $2 a fight.
Wow.
Were you taking on all comers? How did that work, Adrian? Were you taking on people from the crowd?
First of all, I was boxing against the boxers that they had on there. That's how they kind of discovered me. But then they gave me a job, and I was fighting with people from the crowd. But the thing is, I can't box. I can try.
So were these boxing matches just strictly boxing matches? It wasn't like the
Yeah,
dock fights?
The problem with boxing matches are they had rules. And I've always said it doesn't matter how you win as long as you cheat.
Right. Hey, so Adrian, your dad was a POW and a coal miner?
Yeah.
No wonder he was so miserable.
He was a coal miner, and like when the war broke out and everything like that, they didn't conscript coal miners because the coal industry was too important to the country. You know what I mean? It was like they needed that for the war effort.
Right.
But my father had too much to say for himself and everything like that, and they fired him, or they give him a job on top of the pit. And on top of the pit wasn't, that didn't sort of save you from getting called up. And they did it on purpose because my father was like too much for like the miners' rights and all that kind of stuff. And they made an example of him by putting him on top of the pit. And then in no time at all, he got called up for the army, and that was just before it. Well, in actual fact, Pearl Harbor was 2 days after my first birthday, but my father by that time was already on his way to fight in North Africa, against the Germans, but they had to pick up some more stuff, some more supplies and things like that in the Maldive Islands, which is like around the Cape from South Africa. They went to the Maldive Islands, and on the way out from there, they collided with another ship, and they had to go back into the dock for repairs. And by the time they had their repairs done, they learned about Pearl Harbor being bombed, and they got rerouted to Singapore. They needed to go to Singapore to defend that against the Japanese. In actual fact, all the details are in this book.
My Pink Gas Mask.
Was that your first book?
In my first book, yeah, My Pink Gas Mask. And
so Adrian,
he was there fighting against the Japanese in Malaya and in Singapore, but then the Japanese came down and drove him back into Singapore, drove him off of Singapore. My father was one of the lucky ones to start off with. They managed to escape from there to Sumatra, and there was like various things happening in Sumatra. In the meantime, the Japanese captured airfields and things like that in Sumatra, and began to sort of overrun that. And one of my father's jobs, like with his regiment, was to sort of blow up the oil refineries in Singapore, because that is what the Japanese were after. They needed oil and they needed rubber, both of which you could get in Sumatra. But anyway, they blew up the oil refinery, and then they were chased by the Japanese all the way down the Japanese island to the end. I mean, that is an epic story in itself.
Yeah,
It's all in that first book. But anyway, when they finally got down there, they managed to escape over to Java. And whenever they arrived in Jakarta, they found that the Dutch had already surrendered to the Japanese. So they actually escaped to Java, but were made prisoners almost as soon as they got there. My father was a prisoner of war with them then for another 3.5 years. He was a prisoner.
And then he came. And then when he came back from the war, he resumed being a coal miner, huh?
Yes, went straight back into the coal mine.
And
He actually worked in the coal mine for a total of 51 years.
that's insane. Wow.
There's this very iconic picture of you and him in front of the coal mine, and you're in your full Adrian Street. Yeah, there it is.
Did you, Adrian? You mind me asking? Did you and your father ever reconcile, make peace at all before he passed?
No. He was. The last time I ever saw him, he was in his early 70s. The last time I ever saw him, he came over, invited himself over, while I was actually living here in Gulf Breeze, where I was living in a different property down near the beach, like one of the first houses that I bought. He came to stay with me there, but even there, we just absolutely never saw eye to eye or anything like that. And it's funny, when I spoke to him on the phone and he told me he wanted to come out and visit me, I panicked and I ran out straight away and bought him a ticket. I bought him a ticket to come out. Now you think to yourself, what a nice guy Adrian is, like buying his dad a return ticket from Britain over to spend time with him and Linda in Gulf Breeze. Well, it was measured in my madness and my generosity as it happened, because I made sure that the ticket was only valid for 30 days. And I'll tell you what, that was 29 and a half days too much.
I was wondering. That was going to be my next question.
Wow.
The first thing he said to me when I met him at the airport was, oh, he said, that ticket you sent me, he said, it's only valid for 30 days. He said, I saw it come out for about 6 months at least. I would have killed him before that.
You're like, that's what you thought.
So basically, when you went back to the coal mine to take that picture, was that basically a big FU to everyone?
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. It was that to all of them, because when I was working in the coal mine, from the time I went there in the first place, all I was saying is, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. I'm not spending my life down here, down in the coal mine, in the dust and the gas and all the rest of it. And all the coal miners, my father, like, once again, always had too much to say for himself.
Right.
He was like the ringleader very often. You can't be a professional wrestler. You're too small. They'd rip you off. If you've seen the size of them, you can't be a wrestler. You'll never make it. You'll never make it. Well, just before that photograph was taken, I won the middleweight European title. So, I mean, that entitled me to say that I was a champion and the best middleweight champion in Europe. All the newspapers got onto it. They wanted photographs of me wearing the belt, and they were doing a story over. They were doing my life story at the time over a period of Sunday newspapers. So I said to him, yeah, you can take a photograph of me wearing a belt, but there's only one place you can do it. So I knew what time my father came up to the coal mine. We all went down to Wales and everything like that. There was like a few cagefuls of miners came up before, but as soon as I spotted my father, I dragged him out. I said, right, you have your photograph taken. So I said, you stand there, and the other ones, I said, you have your photographs taken as well. So anyway, they did that, and it just showed them that not only did I make a wrestler, like they all said I couldn't, but it was one of those.
Yeah. And for the people listening at home, that's the middle finger.
not only was I a wrestler, but I was the champion of Europe. I had a belt to prove it.
I'm curious to know what any of them said to you when you showed up there. They didn't know you were coming, right?
No, they didn't, and they didn't say anything. Well, for one thing, they knew I could be nasty,
Right.
verbally and physically. So they just looked with their mouths open. Some of the ones that came up the pit before before the cage with my father, and they just kind of stood around with their mouths hanging open. I mean, you can see the way I was dressed.
Right.
I'd hardly pass for a coal miner there.
Oh, it's that's
such a
so
great
great.
picture.
So great. Adrian, I don't want to I don't want to keep you too long, but there's a couple of things I want to ask you about, like your early career when you were called Lord Tarzan Jonathan.
Kid
Tarzan.
Kid Tarzan Jonathan. Sorry, I've been hitting the head a lot, Adrian.
That was after. I named myself after my idol, Don Leo Jonathan.
Right. Amazing.
In actual fact, this book here, I Only Laugh When It Hurts, that is a photograph of me. I post a lot of physique magazines, along with Sean Connery, actually.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, Sean Connery used to pose for the same photographers that I did.
Interesting that Don Leo Jonathan is one of your idols, like, because I mean, he's like he was 6'9", I mean, huge guy, and you're kind of not so big.
Yeah.
But some of your other idols were like Lou Thez and guys like that too. Any British guys idols of yours?
No, not really.
Huh.
They were most of them in that time were like a lot of piss takers, similar to the coal miners. I mean, the thing is, I was well armed verbally to deal with a lot of the wrestlers, but there's so much jealousy in the business. I mean, I'm sure that as a fellow wrestler, you've experienced that sort of thing yourself.
Oh, of course.
You know, a lot of them. You can understand somebody like walking over you to get up the ladder, like to get ahead of you and everything like that. But a lot of them will stab you in the back just for the sheer hell of it, you know.
Sure.
But anyway, like a lot of the wrestlers over there were the same way. I mean, they told me the same. You can't be a wrestler. Little guys like you at 10 a penny. You know, you'll never make a wrestler or anything like that. And even if you do, you'll never make any money because you're too small. Little guys like you never make anything, you know. But the thing is, it's great, really. I mean, in a way, although I dislike my father very much, and I dislike the other miners very much, and I disliked a lot of the wrestlers that continue to sort of want to put me down. But the thing is, they don't realize just how much ammunition they gave me, how much determination they gave me, because a lot of people thrive on like positive feedback. I thrive on positive feedback, but if there's anything that I thrive more on, it's
Negative.
Yeah, I gotcha.
negative. That's the word I was looking for. It's negative. It's negative response, because I'm going to try that harder. In fact, I'm going to succeed or die trying, just to show you that you're wrong and I'm right.
Sure, I can totally relate to that, Adrian, because a lot of the things that you were told were things I was told too, and it doesn't it feel great to be able to stick that middle finger up at everyone?
Yes.
You don't
That
want to be
is-
a sore winner, but hey, F you, everyone that said, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't do it.
Well, do you think because you were smaller in stature, you made your character so over the top to like balance that out?
To be honest, you read all about that in this book. So many ways to hurt you. That's the saying I used to have, because you get people sort of bad mouthing you before you go in. I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do that to you, and all the rest of it. And my response was, "Oh, really, dear boy? Well, I hope you're bringing all your skills with you because you're going to need them. Because I've got so many ways to hurt you. You'll have to invent new ways to scream.
Nice.
Yeah, you always have some great lines. That's one of them. I like beating ugly men beautiful. That's another one. Like, you have so many great lines.
That's me wrestling with some of the guys in Britain.
I Could Kill a Man Eventually is one of my favorites.
I get a man eventually.
So Adrian, the reason I was asking you about your name early on, and then you changed it to Adrian Street, but you were in a tag team called the Hells Angels. Did you ever get any heat from the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club over that?
Yes, the silly buggers. Actually, that story would take too long to tell, but you can get it in detail in this.
Sadist and Sequence.
Yeah.
That's another one of your books. How many books have you written total?
I've got 7 books. This is the first one after I left Britain. Violence is Golden. Do you notice a lot of my books have got titles of songs from my first album?
Sure, I did notice that.
Violence is Golden, Sadist in Sequence, Imagine What I Can Do to You, and this is my latest book, The Merchant of Menace. That's me on the back beating the crap out of Randy Savage.
Oh, let's talk about that.
From Memphis, right?
And I don't know if you can see that, but that's him in the dressing room after I'd finished with him.
I was actually just looking at a match you had with Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, last night. Go ahead, Jimbo.
Well,
sorry.
Randy has always been known for really planning out his matches move for move. Like we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna go here. Was that the situation you had with Randy?
Not with me, mate. Not with me, mate. I had lib, and I like Randy. I got to like him and all the rest of it. But like a lot of other wrestlers, if he was hung for being a wrestler, he would have died innocent because he can't wrestle.
That's one of my.
if you notice in a lot of my contests with him and certain other wrestlers, we'll use him as an example because that's what we'll be talking about. I would pretend that I was terrified of him. I would pretend I was frightened of him. He chased me out of the ring. I'd even grab Linda and put Linda in harm's way between Randy and myself to really sell the fact to the people, like, this Randy Savage has got Adrian Street's number. We've seen Adrian Street beating people up, turning them inside out and outside in and all the rest of it. I could have beaten Randy Savage the best day of his life in about 1 minute. It'd only take me until I actually got hold of him. But the thing is, how exciting would that be?
Yeah, not so much.
It'd show Randy up and everything like that. I knew that I had a program with him. It was going to last, I don't know, maybe a couple of months or something like that. So I needed to make the most of him. So I pretended to be afraid of him. I pretended to be frightened of him. I'd run away. So that would build up the heat and everything like that. But like when we did sort of come together and everything like that, all he could do with me would be like a stomp or a punch or something like that, or jumping off the corner post on top of my head and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'd suffer all that and what have you. And then when the time was right, I'd turn him inside out, upside down, and do to him what I could do and what he couldn't do anything about. There was a lot of wrestlers like that.
I was just gonna say, you ran into that a lot, throughout your career here in the States. I noticed, like, in your matches with Dusty Rhodes, like even the one from Lakeland Civic Center, it went just like you said. The match with Randy went, and when you were getting heat on him, you had a double wrist lock on him. That was like you actually did a wrestling hold to get heat on him.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's funny because when I started my career, everybody, including the other wrestlers, you can't be a wrestler, you're too small. Now, and not only that, go away, you're too small and you're too young. Now, when I decided to come to the States, everybody, including the other wrestlers, you can't wrestle. Little guys like you can't wrestle in the States. They're giants out there, so I'm the giants. You're going to be like Gulliver. You know what I mean? Yeah, little guys like you can't sort of wrestle out there. And as far as I was concerned, that was the same old. I'd heard it all before. But the thing is, when I came out, I mean, sometimes I'd be wrestling somewhere and I'd be introduced to my opponent. He'd come over to me and say, like, hey, I'm 6'6", I weigh 290 pounds. How can a big guy like me lose to a little guy like you? I said, don't worry about it, mate. As soon as we get in there, I'll show you.
Wow.
Hey, Adrian, did you ever have to do just that?
Yeah. Did anyone ever test you?
Damn, yeah. And I tell you what, I didn't have to do it an awful lot. I didn't have to do it an awful lot before people had come on to me. I mean, for instance, I was wrestling with Ray Candy. Now,
Oh, sure.
Ray Candy did not have an attitude. He was the nicest guy.
Very nice.
But he came the first time. Could you imagine? I mean, you know the size of Ray Candy.
Sure.
I mean, he's
like 400 pounds, 6'5", 6'6", big
That's
black
a big dude.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, by now my reputation had gone round, and people knew that they either played it my way or they'd get a smacking. Anyway, he came up to me and he was almost white with shock, like, oh my God. Adrian, he says, listen, he says, I don't have a big man complex. He said, I don't have a big man complex at all. He says, listen, he said, you drop kick me or anything like that. He said, I'll be over the top rope. He said, I'll take bumps for you all over the place. He said, you hit me with a forearm. He said, I'll fly out of the ring. I said, please don't do that, Ray. I said, because you're a big guy with the right attitude. I said, if I go in the ring and beat the crap out of you, I drop kick you and you fly over the top rope, and I give you a forearm smash and you fly over the top rope. I said, that isn't going to make me look double powerful. I said, it might give the people like a shock to sort of start off with, but as soon as they see me do it 2 or 3 times, it's going to be old hat. I said, we're not going to get a match. I said, if I hit you with a drop kick, I said, if I hit you with a forearm smash or something like that, you stand there and look down on me like, is that the best you got? I said, you give me a forearm. I said, and I'll fly out of the ring. I said, I want to make you look like there's nothing on earth I can possibly do to you. I said, and I'm going to try to get one over on you, and I'm going to fail miserably every time because you're so big, you're so powerful. A little guy like me can't do it. So eventually, when I do find a way to do it, what I actually did is I hit him with a forearm, I hit him with another forearm, I hit him with another forearm. He hit me with one, and I flew backwards into the corner. He comes striding forward to get me. I sprung myself out of there and used the ropes to fly right up in the air, and I came down on him with an elbow and knocked him on his backside. The place erupted because I'd already showed him it was impossible to do what I just did.
Right on.
So all of a sudden I'm doing the impossible, and what have you? I managed to roll on top of him from that, and I got the win. The crowd went nuts. Whereas if he sort of fell down every time I looked at him, it wouldn't have meant anything at the end of the thing. You make something look difficult, you make something look impossible. That's something I've always never understood. Boxers, or sometimes wrestlers do it too, but boxers especially, they might be fighting a guy that's like much older than them. They're an up-and-coming boxer, and as far as I'm concerned, the speech they make, they paint themselves into a corner. It's like, oh yeah, I remember, okay, like, so this guy, he's world champion and everything like that, and he was like one of the greatest in his time, but not now. His legs are gone, his legs have got old.
Right.
And I'm like this and I'm like that, and I beat so-and-so, and I'm going to beat the crap out of him and everything like that. Now, people listening to that are either not going to believe him, or if they do believe him, what is he beaten if he's already sort of run the guy down? When I talk about a guy, or when I wrestle a guy, I'll make him look like the best wrestler in the world. And I'll make him sound like the best wrestler in the world. And in an interview, unless the guy's a real mug and he's unredeemable. But then if you make him sound like or make him look like the best wrestler in the world, and then you beat him, then you've beaten something. When I had my wrestling school, that's something I always used to say to the guys. Make the guy that you're wrestling with, takes two to tango. Make the guy that you're wrestling with look really good. If you make him look crap, what have you beaten?
Plus, I mean, when we make them look good, they want to make us look good, Adrian. That's how it's always worked with me.
Yeah.
I never had a problem with that kind of thing because I did my best to make my opponent look good, no matter if he was an asshole or not.
When I went into Tennessee, Bill Dundee was a booker there, and he said to me, "You give the guy too much. You give him too much. He's a squash job. Just go in there and squash him." I tell you what, you go in there, all right, it might be a guy who's being squashed every time he's on TV by whoever he's on with. But the thing is, I'd go in there mousing away and all the rest of it. Just imagine how excited the people would be if somebody that's been beaten by everybody actually beaten me after all the mousing I've done. Yeah, I'm the best in the world, this, that, and the other, and all the rest of it. I'll go in the ring and start knocking my opponent about and everything like that. But then all of a sudden, through sort of overconfidence, I'm standing there posing, and he hits me with a forearm or he hits me with a drop kick or something like that. And just for those few minutes, he's got me on the ropes. Can you imagine how excited they are?
Yeah, I can imagine.
And could you imagine, what can I say to that? Like if he'd beat me, like I've made it look like he's almost done it. Bill Dundee said to me, "Oh, don't do that, don't do that." You know what I mean? The guy's just a job boy and everything like that. I believed in getting an exciting match out of everybody.
Exactly. Like that's a
Every
thing.
time I stepped in the ring, I'm entertaining the people, and to do that, if I'm a villain, I've got to make it look I'm just bitten off a little bit more overconfidence.
And like the key word to me is the enhancement match, the squash match, whatever, entertaining. A lot of guys just go out there and they're just getting their, they're just doing their stuff, and there wasn't really any thought about making it entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing about you. How was it being a heel all those years and all of a sudden having to be a babyface? Because I know when you came, you had your match with Dusty in Lakeland and did great business. Then you came back as his partner and sold the place out. And you were over huge with the people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't get on with him either because I used to call him Busty Rose, the American Queen, and he didn't like that.
Yeah, but he was smart enough to know he could do good business with you, Adrian.
Oh, I mean, I tell you, when I went down there first, I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's the best fucking gimmick I've ever seen.
Yeah, I remember when you cut his hair. Remember when you cut his hair in Lakeland?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did like a hair match and everything like that with the scissors up a pole and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting the scissors and I was just about to cut his hair, but he knocked it out of my hand, knocked me down, and by the time I got up, he cut a piece off mine. Except that what I didn't want him cutting any pieces of my actual hair. What I did is I got a couple of,
Extensions?
I got a couple of extensions, hair pieces, and I tied them into my hair and fastened those feathers on and everything like that, so that when he actually cut my hair, all he was doing is cutting off an extension. I wasn't going to have my hair ruined because I wasn't planning on staying there much longer anyway,
Why is that? What was your experience working in Florida, Adrian? Or for the championship wrestling from Florida?
The thing is, it was the best territory I'd been in up until then, as far as like making money was concerned and all the rest of it.
Right.
I liked Eddie Graham, and he liked me because I could wrestle. Eddie liked wrestlers,
Oh, yeah.
and I was a wrestler, not not a bad actor, a good wrestler.
And we,
In fact, I was a great wrestler. But there you go. I wouldn't say that.
but I will. I'll say it for you.
The only thing that stopped me from being perfect is my modesty.
There's two. Florida was actually two territories, like the Gulf Coast area where you actually reside. That was a separate territory that you worked in as well.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of that one. I had sort of heard of it and everything like that when I was in Canada working for Stu Hart. But I think I was working. Yeah, I was working in Tennessee when I first got like a lot of news, and it was Luke Williams, who was a very good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
You know, one
love
of
Luke.
the sheep herders. He's the one that really told me about Gulf Breeze, and he actually gave me the name, address, and phone number of a realtor, and I actually came here and I bought 5 properties in Gulf Breeze. More than a year before I actually came here to live.
Wow.
I bought them as rental properties. You know, I've still got 4. I've still got 4 of those, apart from the house I'm living in.
Just to veer off from wrestling for just 1 second here, being a resident of Gulf Breeze for all these years, how many UFOs have you seen?
How many what?
UFOs, unidentified flying objects.
I often wonder, because when we used to wrestle down on the pier every Sunday night,
Right?
it's only a short drive from my house. So Linda and I would get ready and put our makeup and everything like that on, put our weird costumes on, and put our makeup on before we ever left.
Yeah.
And I said to Linda, I wonder how many times we've been responsible for people reporting sort of like an encounter of the third kind or something.
That's funny.
You know, you just brought up Linda, and I want to ask you about Linda, because you don't hear, like, she's like an unsung hero to me. How much credit do you give her for your success, Adrian?
Oh, an awful lot, an awful lot. We were a team, and to get the full story, you're gonna have to read all my books, all 7 of them. No. In actual fact, Linda and I got together.
1969.
Yeah, 1969, and that's this book.
Okay.
Sadist and Sequins.
That's
Such a great name.
That's the first holiday we went away with, and that's before she was ever in the business. But it's after I left the Big Time Promotions. The Big Time Promotions never used girl wrestlers.
Right.
And what actually happened there is I left the Big Time Promotions because I got an offer I couldn't refuse from the Wrestling Federation of Great Britain. They were the second biggest. Well, they were the biggest independent promoters at the time.
Who was the promoter?
Orig Williams.
Oh, Orig Williams. Okay.
Yeah, Orig Williams was the actual promoter, but there was the he offered me 50% after expenses, 50% of whatever came in through the door. So very often I was making more money in one night for them, because it was, in actual fact, he gave me half the promotion. The promotion was half mine.
Nice.
And half the profits after expenses were mine. And very often I made more money in one night than I was making in a whole week working for the big time promoters. So that was the reason. But they also used to use lady wrestlers, and they had some good ones, very good ones.
Klondike Kate worked for them.
I mean, they learned to wrestle from the guys, and the guys were good wrestlers. But anyway, it was Linda's suggestion. She said, like, listen, you know yourself, if for some reason some wrestler didn't turn up, they might say to you like, "Oh, hang about, please don't rush away because, you might need to go in again. So and so hasn't turned up yet." Well, if a male wrestler didn't turn up, you could stick a guy back in that had already wrestled that night, and the crowd wouldn't be too upset about it. But what if you got one of the girls there and the other girl doesn't turn up? You could put the other girl in with a guy, but that's not what the fans paid for.
That's right.
They wanted to see a ladies wrestling match, and if one girl isn't there, they're not going to see a ladies wrestling match. So Linda said to me, first of all, why don't you teach me enough so I can actually go in and take the place of another girl if another girl doesn't turn up? Well, she was hardly into her training when exactly that happened. The weather was horrible in the place we went to. The other girl couldn't get there. So we put Linda in. And she did well. I was so surprised and everything like that there was like details that she'd listened to me and absorbed things that I just, I thought I would be teaching her for like another year or two before she actually got that instinct,
Sure.
But anyway, the very next week we were touring Ireland. We were over there for 6 days in Belfast, wrestling around different places in Belfast, and she came over and wrestled six times that week. Now the thing is, whenever I went over there, naturally I was like the guy that everybody was taking notice of, and wherever the newspapers would be around there, want to take photographs of me doing this and doing that and doing sort of something else, interviewing me for TV and everything. I took Linda over there, and I turned her into a Red Indian. I called her Blackfoot Sue. And,
you could not get away with that now.
She wore like a beaded band with like a war eagle on there and everything like that. I designed like a buckskin dress and all the fringes on for her. I don't know if you can actually see that on the bottom. That was Linda as Blackfoot Sue.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can see that one there. That was her when she was Miss Aquarius.
With the red hair? With the red hair, Adrian?
Wow.
That's me in Quest for Fire.
Oh yes, People don't. A lot of people probably don't know you. And like it was early '80s. You were in Quest for Fire with Ron Perlman.
Yeah, that's right. With Ron Perlman and Everett McGill.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, I was involved with that movie. We're going off the subject actually, but I'll just say it quickly. I was involved in that movie for about 2 years before they actually started filming. So I was involved with the costumes. I was involved with the makeup. I worked with Chris Tucker with all the makeup and stuff like that. And I worked with various people with the costumes. Penny Rose was like one of the main people. But apart from the characters that I actually played in Quest for Fire, I was a prototype for all the other Neanderthal tribes costumes as well.
Okay.
So that's why, we were working on the costumes and working on the makeup for that movie almost 2 years before we actually started filming.
Nice. Back to Linda. Sorry about that. That happens with me sometimes, Adrian. I apologize.
Oh, I tell you what, I'm kind of famous for, like, if I tell a story, I'll go back to sort of actually give it some foundation, where it actually led, how it actually led to that.
Sure.
But then very often I'll go in a different direction, and all of a sudden I'll say, like, well, why am I talking about this?
Exactly.
Where am I going with it,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Linda, you guys met because you were buying exotic fish and she worked at this fish store, and you said that you think she sold you sick fish so you'd constantly go back and see her.
Yeah.
Did she ever admit to this being true or not?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Yeah. The store that she worked in was the first store in Britain that actually sold tropical marine fish. And the only time I'd ever seen tropical marine fish before was in sort of like a zoo, like the special aquariums and things like that they had there. It wasn't something for the public, you know. But anyway, that was the first that was the first store that I actually introduced them to Britain. When I saw them, I had to have them, and I'd only just bought my first house at the time. I was actually married at the time, and so was Linda, but to different people, you know. But anyway, I kept going back and everything like that, and we had so much in common. You know, I told you earlier that I liked painting and sculpturing. So does Linda. She's a great artist. And there were different sort of clays and different things that I used to sculpt with and everything like that. And she used to sculpt, or wanted to sculpt, little bas relief exotic fish. You know, the same type that I used to buy off her. And I used to bring her clays that you could actually fire. You could actually model it in this sort of like, almost like rubber. But then you could actually fire it and set hard, and then she could paint it and everything, you know. And I worked with her on that, and we got to know each other. But I was always asking her, because there was like a well-known arena right by the store, the Fairfield Halls in Croydon, that I used to wrestle there quite a lot. And I was always inviting her to come up there. And it was a long time before she came. And even when she did, she'd go there with a chaperone. So I didn't have to give her so that she wouldn't rely on me for a ride home. I don't know what she thought I was going to do. But anyway, eventually she did, and I did. So we've been together ever since.
That's so cool.
That is cool. How long have you all been together now? So, well, I mean, you all met in 69.
69, and I think they got married in 2005.
We've been together since 1969.
And when you got married, Don Leo Jonathan was your best man?
Yeah.
Amazing. That is so cool.
I've never actually met him. I mean, he was my hero. He was my first wrestling hero. And I never actually met him until the night I proposed to Linda. I didn't even know if... I thought Linda would say yes, but I wasn't sure. But I'd already asked him if he'd be my best man before, the same night that I was going to propose to Linda. And I said, if Linda says yes, will you be my best man? And he agreed I would. He was well aware of me, funnily enough, even though he'd retired a number of years before. He was well aware of me. I was so flattered because he thought I was a great wrestler. He said, what a gimmick, what a gimmick.
Yeah.
So, I was so pleased that it wasn't sort of just hero worship, which it still was even after all those years. But there was like a mutual respect there and everything. What a great guy. But I'll tell you something else too. The guy that married us was an ordained Catholic priest. At the moment he's on the shot, he's a bishop now. The guy who actually married us at the Cauliflower Alley Club. But before he was an ordained Catholic priest, he wrestled professionally as the Wolfman.
As what?
As the Wolfman.
As the Wolfman. Jason Saunders.
Oh, I'll be damned.
So everyone was a wrestler at the wedding. It's awesome. It's
Sanderson,
so cool.
yeah.
Hey, does Linda still have that golden glove, the golden boxing glove for the purse? That was one of my favorite things that you got part of your act.
Do you know something? The funny thing is she came across it the other day. She still got it.
Nice.
She said, oh, poor thing, what shall I do with it? I said, keep it. I said, that's a collector's item now.
Absolutely.
And in actual fact, we came in, do you know the funny thing is, I told you that the wrestlers in Britain, you can't go to the States. You're too small and you're too old now. Why didn't you hang up the gloves? Why didn't you hang the thing up? I was 40 before I left Britain, and I had my 41st birthday in Mexico City. I was wrestling down there for Flores, at my 41st birthday when Mike LaBelle heard we were doing great business down there. It was Mike LaBelle actually brought me into the States the 31st of January 1982. And I'd already had my 41st birthday in Mexico a couple of months before I ever set foot in the States. And quite honestly, I've had a longer and more profitable career since I've been in the States than I ever had the whole time I wrestled in Europe.
Wow. And so so Mike LaBelle was the first one to bring you to the States, so I'm assuming you came to LA.
Yeah, and not only that, it was Mike LaBelle's wife that actually gave Linda the Golden Glove.
Oh, okay.
Because she was hitting her. I mean, she had like a little bag that she made that she'd whack people with at the at the appropriate time. And Mike LaBelle's wife gave Linda the Golden Glove, and she said, "Why don't you use this for a purse?" And it was perfect because, the little bag she had wasn't padded at all, and there'd be a bottle in there. There'd be like a bottle in there that I'd sort of
perfume.
She'd spray me with. That I'd stuck sort of rhinestones and big rhinestones all over and everything like that. And I mean, she'd swing that thing round, and it was the original bag she had was capable of splitting somebody open.
Adrian, was there something in particular that made you decide whether you would go with the skull crusher, like the skull makeup, or like the more, I don't know, the lighter mood
I always
costumes that you would wear?
The butterfly with the skull
Yeah.
reminded me of Silence of the Lambs.
The thing is, I always believed in making an impact as soon as people actually saw me. And I always kept a diary, and I'd write in the diary so I wouldn't forget, because sometimes you're at a place on a weekly basis, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're in the same arena every week. And I didn't want exactly the same look every week. So one day, like the first time I went there, I might have a butterfly sort of painted on my face, and like everything would be pink and pretty, and I'd be dressed in sort of pink with sort of white sort of swans down and all that sort of thing around the place. And then maybe the next time I'd wear like purple velvet and lace and everything like that.
I thought maybe there was just something.
Then I think to myself, well, now I want to hit him with the contrast.
Yeah.
So then I'd hit him with maybe like the chains and studs and a skull with bat wings on my face instead of like a pretty butterfly,
I just thought that maybe that was when you were deciding you were going to get serious and really hurt someone, eventually, kill a man eventually.
Well, I used, in a place I was at for a long time, I did start to use that. Okay, now I'm in business, I've got the black studs on,
Sure.
So, I mean, when I first introduced like sort of wearing different sort of stuff, and now and again I'd throw in the chains and all kinds of intermediate sort of looks and everything like that as well,
Yeah. Adrian,
But,
Adrian, can you talk to us about, and this is my favorite wrestling movie ever, Grunt the Wrestling Movie. I love that movie. It's great. It's
timeless.
It's campy, it's cheesy, and it's and you were fantastic in it.
It was so bad it was good.
Exactly.
In actual fact, I'd only written and performed and recorded 4 tracks at the time, and they used 3 of them in. They used 3 of the 4 tracks in that movie. But both Linda and I were in that movie, and we played ourselves in it, and all that kind of thing. I had a lot to say with what I did and what I didn't do either, because the scene with John Tolos, they told me, they said like, oh, okay, when they come to the bit where the mask slaps Bill Grant, what was his name?
I forget what they called him in the movie, but Bill Grant was a former Mr. World and incredible bodybuilder. Really nice guy.
Great guy too. Really nice guy. Captain Carnage.
That's right.
That was his character's name. When the Mask, when he insulted the Mask, you're garbage, and the Mask gives him a smack in the face.
Yeah.
At that stage, they wanted me to. They were going to sort of wreck. They were going to wreck the set of Exotic Adrian Street Corner. The funny thing is, I actually did that in real life for Mike LaBelle. Going off the subject, well, a little bit. But anyway, what they wanted me to do was what they thought my character would do, would be screaming and running around all over the place, shrieking and screaming. I said, no, I'm going to do the British bit rather than the screaming Queen bit,
Right.
So I said, whenever that happens and they start to fight, I'm going to jump up on my chair and say, like, down, boys, down, like, trying to sort of control them. And John Tolis is going to push me, and I'm going to fall arse back into the trash can that they've got there while all the fighting goes on. And I mean, there's scenery falling down on my head. It's just the way it got knocked. That was all kind of ad lib where everything fell and went and everything like that. And instead of running, scuttling around, mincing about all over the place and screaming like a constipated queen, I sat until it was over, and then with a microphone, which I still had in my hand, well, viewers, that ends another Exotic Adrian Street Corner.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like a lot better than the other character running around all hysterical over the place. Especially considering we've already been talking about me going into the Battle Royal, where I'm going to be one of the major contestants in that.
Right, for the world title.
In fact, I was the last but three and got double crossed out of that by the Mask.
Well, you're lucky you didn't get your head caught in the ropes and decapitated, Adrian.
Yeah. But anyway, talking about movies, I'm glad you mentioned that, because at the moment,
you have a biopic coming out about you, right?
Joan Randalls, who is the director and producer of Adrian the Movie, which is a new movie being made. It's in the early stages of production in Britain right now. She is also making a documentary which kind of introduces Adrian the Movie, which is a feature film. It's going to be a multi-million-dollar movie, actually. But she's interviewing different people who knew me way back when. Jake the Snake is already in the can. We've already got an interview from him, and so is Mick Foley now.
Oh,
That's awesome.
So I mean, that's people. Well, those two guys I've mentioned are well known in the UK as well as in the States. But that is going to that is really going to sort of give Adrian the documentary, which precedes Adrian the Movie, a lot of credibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to see an interview with Dustin Rhodes about like growing up with you facing Dusty and how much an influence you had on his Goldust character. That would be great to hear that.
Read all about it in this book.
Violence is
golden.
Speaking of books, I know you've written 7
Read all
books,
about in that book, because like I explained in the book, when I wrestled with Dusty, especially around Tampa or wherever it was that Dusty lived, little Dustin would be at some of those shows.
That's right.
Watching me wrestle with his father. And like I explained in Violence is Golden, the image he portrayed when he was a lot older and actually got to be in the business proves that he was a lot more influenced and impressed by my character than his father's.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to deny the similarities there, the androgynous character and with the female manager. How about that, Adrian?
I wonder where he got that from.
I don't know. I'm not really sure.
And the blonde
Can you help
hair.
us out with that?
There's one thing I've said though about a lot of them, like Adrian Adonis, and
Goldust.
Justin Rhodes,
Johnny B. Bad,
Goldust.
Queewee.
We'll use those. There's a multitude of them, right? There's lots of them. We'll use those two as an example, right? And I'll say that the limp wrist, pouting your lips, patting somebody on the backside, or giving them a kiss is the easy part.
Sure.
Anybody could emulate that. You could go in the ring tomorrow and do it. The people that know where it was coming from. But what I've never seen any of them emulate is my wrestling.
See, I used to tell people that would, when I would talk about other characters that were even similar to yours, the difference was when you got a guy in trouble, you brought it, Adrian. I mean, you got them in trouble. You were vicious. You have a mean streak, and that's missing from a lot of these guys that are trying to do what you did.
It's called street fighting.
Yeah.
Adrian street fighting.
But I mean, things have changed so much since back then, and how much. Well, it's kind of a loaded question. And I know you've been asked about this. The portraying, and you weren't portraying a gay character per se. Like that was something that other people might have come to that assumption. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yes. But the thing is, I wanted to draw attention to myself, and anybody who's got a half an eye will agree that I was successful in drawing attention to myself. And one of the best ways of doing that is to suggest one thing, and then hit them with something entirely different.
The bait and
For
switch.
instance, there was some guy in Texas or something like that, an announcer that said it best. Wow, when Adrian Street, when he makes his way to the ring, when he makes an entrance, damn me, when he's on his way to the ring and gets in the ring and everything, damn me, it looks like a French poodle. He looks to me just like a French poodle. But damn me, when the bell goes and he gets down to business, he changes from a poodle to a damn American pit dog.
Yeah. That's a
And
good
that
way
is
of
the
putting it.
thing. I mean, the thing is, I would suggest one thing as much as possible and then hit him with a complete contrast. So there's mystery and all the rest of it. And Linda was part of that mystery too. That guy looks like a big sissy and everything like that. He looks like a sissy. What is he doing with a girl? And I would treat her badly, especially too,
Right. Put her in harm's way. That was all really good stuff.
Yeah.
Adrian, how's your health now? Because when I originally met you, you had just beaten cancer. I want to say in the early '90s, right, or late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, I tell you what, you've got a good memory, mate. That's exactly when it was. But yeah, and do you know what annoys me is I've never smoked, and I've never liked smoking, and I don't
Right.
like people around me that smoke. You don't come on my property if you've got a cigarette in your hand, let alone my house. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're not welcome if you smoke around me. Because the thing is, back in the day, most of the wrestlers used to smoke. A lot of them were chain smokers. They'd light one cigarette off the other, and they'd be smoking all the time. We used to make the matches in those days in joint promotions, like the big-time promoters,
Yep.
had a whole fleet of old ambulances that they put like lots of seats in and everything like that. They had a top speed of about 45 miles an hour. The roads over there were horrible. So I mean, even a journey that was like a couple of 100 miles, you'd have to leave in the morning and you'd be sitting with these guys all the way there, and they'd be puffing one cigarette after the other, and you were there. They had no air conditioning, no suspension. If you went over a pebble, it'd shake your teeth out. But you'd freeze your ass off in the winter. You'd sweat your balls off in the summer, and that's the way it was. And all the time, these guys are smoking. When you go to the dressing room, they'd be smoking. Fortunately enough for me, I got to be one of the main events after not wrestling for that long a time. That was fortunate, but unfortunately, the latter matches, when they went in, the people in the audience had been smoking all night. I'd go in the ring and it'd be like this blue haze just hanging.
Yep.
And the ring lights. You'd go in there, and we had long matches in Britain. Your matches would be anything from 35 minutes to 90 minutes. That's how long you could be in the ring. My average time was about 45 minutes back in those days, but you could be there a little shorter, you could be there a lot longer. But I mean, we used to wrestle flat out, so all the time I'm breathing, other people smoke, other people smoke, other people smoke. Right. In 1990, I started coughing up blood all over the place. And I didn't know what it was. I'd go and see a doctor, and he'd cauterize the back of my throat, send me on my way. And before I even go home, I'd be coughing up blood again. And it just kept doing that. And I used to go to the hospital first thing in the morning with a bucket on my lap, and I'd fill the bottom of the bucket up with blood coming out of my mouth, out of my throat. I'd go in there, they'd cauterize it, send me on my way. Very often I wouldn't even get home before I'd have to go back again. Anyway, one morning I got up and I'm coughing and it's coming out like ropes. And Linda said, like, oh, I'll take you to the hospital. And she grabbed a bucket. I said, keep the bucket. I said, give me a pile of kitchen paper. So she gave me a great big pile of kitchen paper, and I just let myself cough and bleed into this. And I made an entrance. I'm famous for making dramatic entrances, and that was one of them. I walked in there, and that's the first time they really took me serious. I had a big pile of kitchen paper that was absolutely soaked in blood, and it was dripping and dropping everywhere. They brought a specialist in, they did tests and all the rest of it. Then I had to go back and see him and everything like that full. So he'd give me the diagnosis and results. Anyway, I went to see him. Dr. Lurton, his name was. He had one strange bedside manner, I'm telling you. But he says to me, Mr. Street, he said, I've got some very bad news for you. He said, the type of throat cancer you've got is very malignant. He said, I'm going to give it to you straight. You're not going to make it out of this. He said, I suggest you go home and put your affairs in order. So I said to him, I'm not dying yet, mate. There's too many people in the world I haven't pissed off yet. And that was my attitude. And I think because I've got that attitude, people have told me many times I've had career-ending injuries. You'll never wrestle again. That's it. Your Achilles tendon got snapped right in half. You never wrestle again.
You had a ruptured Achilles tendon?
Not ruptured. It was torn in half.
Oh wow! Ouch.
Put together back together with cut. I had the same deal with that actually. I was 36 years of age at the time, and I was at the very top of my game. My Achilles tendon got torn in half in the ring. Shows how determined I am. I still, my foot was flopping about. I had no control over it at all. And I still went on to win the match.
That's insane.
Anyway, I ended up in hospital. After the surgery, they sewed my Achilles tendon together with cut. I was laying in hospital and I was watching an old black and white Flash Gordon movie, actually, with Buster Crabbe or somebody like that was playing a part. Anyway, I'm watching that, and the surgeon came round, and he said, like, oh, he said, I come to check on you. He said, like, what are you doing? He said, what are you going to do now? I said, lay here and be miserable, I guess. He said, no. He said, let me rephrase that. He said, you used to be a professional wrestler. What are you going to do now? He said, because you could never even think about wrestling again. He said, if you do, he said, you're going to break your tendon again. He said, because the tendon that we've mended, he said, is always going to be weak. He said, and it's shorter than it's going to be shorter than the other one. And he said, you're just about. He said, I would give you like a 99% chance that you're going to have a re-break if you even think about wrestling again. But I'm a wrestler. That's what I do.
Of course.
You know, so it took me a while to get back. First of all, in actual fact, I got an outfit because I would have been embarrassed to see people to see me not wrestling at my best.
Yeah.
So I made an outfit with a mask that sort of moved with my face, a rubber mask that moved with my face, with a lot of long black hair that hung down over it, so it disguised it even more that the face wasn't real. A big hump on my back and everything like that, and I wrestled as Quasimodo. And I actually made myself a boot for my left leg that came sort of way up, so that I couldn't bend my leg and I couldn't skip about and prance about like I used to, even if I wanted to, because I made myself a boot.
At least you couldn't get pinned.
And bit by bit, when I got more confidence, I came out of that character, and I began wrestling again, and that was it. And just a number of years ago, I was already in my early 50s, when an opponent jumped off a corner post, and instead of landing across my chest, hit me in the leg, and he took my kneecap off. The bottom of my kneecap ended up where the top of my just above where the top of my kneecap is supposed to be. Oh. And I was in my early 50s by then. So I was told then, don't even think about wrestling anymore. But people can't. I won't allow anybody, the coal miners, other wrestlers, doctors, bloody professors, never mind what they are, I won't allow anybody else to tell me what I'm to do and what I'm not to do. I've always been my own boss. I've only got one way of doing things, my way.
So, Adrian, even after you got the cancer in remission, you continue to wrestle, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was when I met you. The cancer was in remission when you were in Global, I'm pretty sure.
No.
No?
No, that would have been...
it was 91 then.
Yeah, that would have been just before, because from the treatment, from the radiation, and from the chemo, I lost all my hair.
Uh-huh.
And when my hair started to grow back, instead of it being all sort of nice and glossy and fine like it was and straight, my hair came back all frizzy and sort of almost curly. And I wrestled like that for a little bit, but if I can't have things the way I want them, then I don't want them at all. And by then I knew what I looked like with my head shaved, so that was it. So in order to actually make my entrance into the ring, I was wrestling for promoters. Sometimes I'd wrestle for a promoter that I'd never wrestled for before, and they wanted me to wrestle. They were offering me good money to do it, so okay, I'll do it. But what I do is actually make my entrance with a blonde wig that I made up to look like my hair used to be.
Yeah.
So I'd go in the ring so people would recognize me because of the hair. I'd go in the ring and everything like that, make my entrance, Linda take my gown and all the rest of it. I'd let the bell ring and I'd sort of actually start to prance around the ring. And Linda would call me. I'd say, get down off the apron. I want to start my match. You've forgotten. Oh, yeah, okay. So I'd go over to the corner and what have you. Lay back there. Linda take my wig off. And that's the first time that anybody would see me in that particular arena with no hair.
Wait a minute. That's the same thing Gold Dust would do.
I wonder where he got it from.
Come on.
That's crazy.
I didn't even know you did that, Adrian. I didn't know you did the wig. So that's another thing that another comparison between the exotic one and
I love
Gold
how
Dust.
he told Cancer and the torn Achilles, imagine what I'll do to you.
Don't compare me with him. There is no comparison.
Sorry. Sorry. Wow, man. Adrian, I really want to thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. You're just one of the most amazing characters, just people in wrestling that I've ever met, and huge fan. Just so honored that you came by. Is there anything that you want to hit on before we let you out of here?
Yeah, buy all my books.
Available on Amazon.
Buy all my books. Keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open for
Adrian.
the documentary and Adrian, the feature movie, and also
Your website.
Yeah, the Bizarre Bazaar.
buy my first record album. It's great. And the way that Sean has revamped it and what have you and everything like that is excellent. It's probably better than it was originally. So get my album. It's on cassette.
Are we talking about Shake, Wrestle, and Roll?
Shake, Wrestle, and Roll, the
Yes.
album. Yeah.
Nice. And your website?
Bazaar.
Bazaar.com.
Yeah. Yeah, wrestling gear.
Look for Burger Records.
Burger Records. Cool.
Burger Records. They reissued it. They brought it out on CD. They brought it out on cassette, and they brought it out on vinyl. In actual fact, they've got a collector's item. They've got a collector's copy. Just so many of them on vinyl that's blood spattered.
Oh, great.
Wow. Oh man, so cool.
Well, thank you so much, Adrian. I thank you so much for coming on the show, and please, our best to Miss Linda, and have an awesome day, Adrian.
Thank you so much for doing
same
this.
to you, and thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers,
Oh,
man.
that was so cool.
Well, we'll be right back with more X-Pac 12360.
Yes, we will.
Hey guys, Maria Menounos here. We want to let you know about my new show on SiriusXM Stars Channel 109. It's called Conversations with Maria, and it's live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go to conversationswithmaria.com for more info. Buzz you later.
We're back here on X-Pac 12360. That was the Adrian Street interview.
That was so cool.
It was cool.
I was so amazed. I just sat here in silence the whole time.
No, you didn't. You sat in the booth in silence.
Bury
You
the
came
lead,
in
that's
here
fine.
during one of the breaks. Liar.
Yeah, I do what I can.
No liars on the show, Mark.
Well, that's me. I am the one liar if there is anything.
No, you weren't. You're just mistaken.
No, yeah, but that I love that interview. You know,
Thanks.
he's one of those guys that, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I know something about,
Yeah.
but not entirely everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I would have just done everything chronologically with him from beginning to end, just like read off the Wikipedia or something, we'd still be doing the interview.
Oh yeah. We wouldn't even have left England yet,
Yeah.
probably.
Imagine if I'd have done that with Luke Williams too. Like, I mean, both these
Oh,
guys with
man.
like 50+ year careers.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
even the stuff that talking about him and his relationship with his dad and how that
Yeah.
inspired his character and how he would shake up his character week after week just so that it was so fresh and so different, going from Kiss like with the studs and everything one
Yeah.
week to butterflies and beautiful eye makeup the next. Like what an inspiration for people who are still super character driven, you know. There's some
Yeah.
guys who are just like, yeah, I'm a fighter.
Because
But
you can have like a really like heavy like character based act and still be a hell of a wrestler.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what's so funny to me is like he was so over the top character that I think Jim Cornette said in an interview that if fans ever wanted to test a wrestler, they'd send him to Adrian because they knew Adrian could handle himself, and they'd be like, "Oh, let me beat up this dude in makeup," and then they'd leave without an eye.
That's the thing I don't like though about wrestling back then. Like okay, okay, having a problem with this guy. Let's put him in there with Adrian. Well, maybe Adrian doesn't want to have to do that to to some poor guy. You know, I mean,
Be the enforcer.
yeah.
Without wanting to be the enforcer.
Yeah. But I also did like, in spite of all of that, the fact that he, as much as people be like, no, let me fly for you, you know? No, that's not how this works.
He was the guy who was talking about Ray Candy was in a team called the Zambui Express with a guy named Bad Leroy Brown.
Yeah.
Another guy just very similar size. Both guys are black, and so back then, it was early '80s. They shaved their heads in a mohawk, and wore camouflage fatigues, and were called, like I said, the Zambui Express.
Yeah.
And they were vicious heels. But when I look back on some of the matches, like the Fabulous Ones, like one of the Fabulous Ones would shoot Ray Candy into the ropes at 400 pounds, and he'd just go flying in the ropes, take a hip toss. I mean, it's just like, yes, going by what Adrian was speaking on, like you just because a guy will do that for you doesn't mean he should.
Yeah.
You know, so and I never let guys do that for me. Did
anybody offer?
Oh yeah, sure. And every now and again, you would have to like do something just because there was absolutely no, like after thinking about it, there was really no other way of getting to that point, and you would have to like just redo everything to. I don't know. I'm over explaining things.
Well, still,
sorry.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes I try to explain things and it just doesn't come out right.
X-Pac explains it all.
No, I try to and fall terribly short.
Well, it's really respectable of him to know good business, because with the egos in wrestling and people always wanting to be better and like, oh no, I'm better than you, I should win. If someone came up to you and was like, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff and, you know, I want you to do this to me and like make you look so great because you're making me look so bad. But he was a smart businessman. Was like, no, because then next month, no one's going to pay to see us. Yeah. But I was you chase me and
I was hoping he would end up telling us who he actually had to stretch out in there, you know, like who he had to put in their place.
He has such a big career. I wouldn't be surprised if we can get him back on for another time. Yeah. Loved it. Awesome.
All right.
So
Anything
crazy.
else?
I think we just need to put the show over a little bit.
Yeah.
You mean this one?
This one.
This
Xbox
one,
360 on AfterBuzz TV.
That you could find on iTunes, like, rate, and subscribe. Leave a comment. You could also watch us on YouTube. Give us that thumbs up like button. We always love that. Also, Sean has some upcoming events. We have this weekend Get High Watch Wrestling at Cinefamily in Santa Monica with Ron
It's not
Funches.
Santa Monica.
It's off of Santa Monica
fair.
Boulevard.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. I thought you said in Santa Monica.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
It's
off
on
the 405.
Fairfax.
Yeah.
Fairfax and Santa Monica, right?
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
We'll be there.
I used to drive by there all the time. Yeah.
It used to be the silent theater, right?
Yeah, it was a silent
Yeah.
movie theater back in the day, and now it's still a movie theater, which is awesome. I love it. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun.
I have a feeling we'll end up using this venue for other things.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have a feeling
like
we're
it.
going to dig it.
Yes.
Yes.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
What else, Jimbo? Where else am I?
Well, you're there. You're also at the Icons of Wrestling in Philadelphia on April 22nd. It's a convention. You'll be signing autographs and hanging
that's
out.
right.
And then the Cow Palace May 6th for APW. You're wrestling in a tag match, right?
That's right.
Yes. And also
No,
on
I'm
that,
not in a tag match. I'm in the
In a
Royal
Rumble. That's the second
That's the second time I've done that. I'm writing it on my notes right now,
Yeah, you
so
go.
I don't screw that up again. Also on that show will be Joey Ryan versus Cody Rhodes in a cage.
Pat Patterson, the legendary Pat Patterson.
Sorry, Pat's gonna be
in the
there.
house.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
They announced that a little while ago.
Just hanging out,
I
signing
don't know.
autographs, scouting talent.
He's good.
Who knows?
No, he's come on. Pat Patterson's a legend in the Bay Area.
Yeah. He can do any show that he wants up there. I figure.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
I'm excited about. I wish I wasn't away and I could be here for Get High Watch Wrestling. So you better do it again.
Yes.
Just
You
for
tell
me.
me what to do, Donica.
Oh, don't worry. I'll get
No,
read the
you're
riot
wrong.
act after the show.
All right, man.
On that note, I think we're done for episode 32 in the books.
I'll tell you when we're done.
Is it?
All right.
Okay.
No, hey, thank you guys.
Thank
you,
you,
Sean.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks to Adrian Street again, and you can follow me at the Real X-Pac on Twitter, at Real X-Pac on Instagram, and we'll see y'all next week right here on X-Pac 12360.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Phil Svitek, Kevin Undergaro, show producer Jimbo Frank, managing editor of AfterBuzz Wrestling Christy Olson, and managing producer of AfterBuzz Wrestling Mark Bidonica and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Feel free to like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube, follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac, and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!